How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So on today's video, we're going to be talking about, in my personal opinion, why it's a bad idea to buy a salvage title car. In most cases, there are some exceptions to those cases, and I'm going to talk about them in just a second. So a couple months back, I was doing a multi-point on a car, and had some drivability issues, some lights on the dash, and it looked great from the outside. I opened the hood, and that's where disaster struck. So the vehicle had the passenger motor mount sitting about 1.5 inches from where it needed to sit. So obviously something in that frame rail was bent. I lifted the car had a trans leak. I had some lights on the dash as well, indicating that trans was low on fluid. So I lifted up the vehicle, and a subframe was pushing so bad that it actually hit the transmission, causing the transmission to crack. So obviously at that point, it either needs a case or a used transmission. It'd probably be better to go with the used transmission, because being low on fluid, we don't know if it caused some additional damage. So the right move there was a transmission, in my opinion. And the bigger problem was the subframe was bent, and the issue with the right side frame rail. So obviously we told the customer, and I'm not sure if he knew that he had bought a salvage vehicle or not, but on our VIN inquiry, it states right there clearly that it was in a salvage situation. Not all times will it say that. If somebody, got into an accident and didn't go through insurance, didn't report it to nobody, that wouldn't even be on there. So you can't always rely on a Carfax either, which we'll get into in a second here as well. So obviously the customer was pretty upset. He has spent a lot of money on the vehicles, like a 19 or 20 Pilot, I forget exactly. But to see a grown man almost in tears, is heartbreaking, and I felt really bad for the guy. But at that point, I told him, listen, I would probably stop investing money into this vehicle. He had done some work elsewhere already, and they didn't even notify him, which is crazy. But the guy paid his Sardiac fee and took the vehicle. I'm not sure what happened from there, but I did make a short on it, and a couple guys came down my throat on why, not all salvage title vehicles are bad, and they are true. They are right to a certain extent, and some of those reasons that they would be okay to purchase would be, A, if you're very mechanically inclined and know what you're looking at and kind of expect what you're getting into. So some hail damage, obviously, if there's hail damage, it's just cosmetic, and if you're okay with it, great. If you're not okay with it, at least you know what to expect and you know the extent of the damage. So vandalism, that's pretty obvious. There's going to be stuff missing, stuff broken, whatever case it may be, along with theft. They kind of go hand in hand, theft and vandalism. So missing parts, again, broken, scratched, damaged, dented, whatever. You know what you're getting into. And although you might spend more than you initially thought, you see what's there right from the get. Right. So some other cases where the car may be salvaged but not really an issue is if there was theft and the insurance company just thought the repair cost would be worth more than the car's value, or more than half the value, depends on the company, etc. So that might be a reason they might total it, although there's nothing really mechanically or electronically wrong with the vehicle. So those would be some exemptions that I would be okay with, right? So in most cases, that's not going to be the case. When I get a car at work, it's usually a bad situation, just like that customer had. So when buying a vehicle, in most cases, you're gonna want to take somebody who's looking at who knows what they're looking at these vehicles and know what to look for. So I would pick somebody brand specific, doesn't have to be, but if you have a buddy, if you have a friend, a mechanic, a body shop guy, chances are they'll have a lot better of an eye for this stuff than you. And you could either walk away if they find a red flag at that point, or use that as a bargaining tool. Now, these guys running these used car lots, not all of them, I don't want to generalize everybody, but in most cases from what I see, and even body shops selling these cars, a lot of them do subpar work. And sometimes you find sheetrock screws, you find dum-dum, you find epoxy, you name it, and you've probably seen it on there, or I've seen it on there. And it's just crazy what some of these people try to, essentially put lipstick on a pig, and it looks great from the outside. You go drive it, it's questionable. And then, once you get into some mechanical, issues down the road, you really starts to unfold what really went on there. So again, it might not always be reported that there is a salvage situation. So if the car was in some sort of an accident and it wasn't reported to any authority or anything like that, it's probably not going to be recorded there. This is probably not going to be most cases, although it could happen. So just make sure, again, you know what you're looking at. You take somebody who knows what they're looking at. Also, it's a great idea to run a DTC check to make sure that there isn't anything mechanically going wrong. I have a Honda Scan 2 specific that everyone can use, and I'll link that in the description below. I've been using it a couple of times, and it's a great affordable tool specific for Hondas and Acuras, although there's other ones for other manufacturers and generic tools as well. So that's a good idea, and you're going to want to look at the monitors for the DTCs there for the catalyst, O2, etc. And if any of those are not set, that means the check engine light was probably cleared or battery was reset at some point, and it's usually a red flag. So again, Carfax will not always report it, but it's a good idea. You're also going to want to test drive these vehicles and make sure that everything seems okay. Obviously, if you're buying a used vehicle, chances are something may be wrong with it, but make sure it's not, dog tracking or pulling or making any noises or anything like that. That's always something good to go on a test drive. And if they've refused a test drive, or if they've refused for you to plug in your scanner, that's probably a red flag, and you should walk away from that right away, because they're trying to be dishonest and untruthful. And honestly, it's your hard-earned money, and you should be able to, test drive the car thoroughly, whether it's a private owner, a dealership, or a used car lot, whatever the case may be. Obviously, they're going to probably want to go with you on a passenger side to make sure you're not, stealing a car or whatnot. But they should let you drive the car. Essentially, you're spending $5, $6, $10, $15, $20,000 or whatever. You want to make sure you're driving these cars. You don't just take their word for it, because you never know, right? Also, make sure if you're spending a decent amount of money, you get some sort of a warranty with that vehicle from that dealer or used car place. Obviously, if it's a private owner, probably won't have any of those options. But used car lots seem to be the scummiest and the sleaziest out there, so I would definitely be careful with those. And last but not least, the visual checks. Fender bolts, see if that stuff was touched. Check for orange peel. Check for inconsistencies in a paint, a couple different shades. That probably means it was painted. Doesn't mean it was totaled or salvaged, but again, just looking for stuff. Sometimes they glue headlight tabs back on. There's little telltale signs there that, again, a trained eye will be able to pinpoint. And so hopefully with these tips, nobody out there gets taken advantage of. Everybody likes to make money. That's great. Some of these used car lots, some of these dealers, some of these body shops are doing the right thing. But unfortunately, a lot of times, they promise you the world. The car looks great from the outside, but then there's always smaller or bigger issues once stuff hits down the road. And at that point, you're committed, and they wash their hands, and you're stuck with that vehicle. So that being said, hopefully this video helps somebody out there, and I'll catch everyone on the next one.